Line 3. Sylvan, pertaining to or living in the woods. Hence, a Sylvan historian records scenes in the woods. Line 8. Tempe, a beautiful valley in Greece, sacred to Apollo, the gods of poetry and music. Line 7. Arcady, the literary word for Arcadia. The word connotates a place of rural peace and simplicity because of the ancient reputation of its inhabitants as innocent and peaceful. Line 10. Timbrels, ancient tambourines. Line 45. Cold pastoral, pastoral story in marble. Line 42. Overwrought, covered with.
The idea of using a poem to describe another kind of art form, for example a sculpture, is known by the very specific term ekphrasis.
Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than a rhyme, what leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape of deities or mortals, or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady, what men or god are these, what maidens loth, what mad pursuit, what struggle to escape, what pipes and timbrels, what wild ecstasy.
Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes, play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared. Pipe to the spirit deities of no tone. Fair youth beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss. Though winning near the goal, yet do not grieve. She cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. Forever wilt thou love, and she be fair.
Ah, happy, happy boughs that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu. And happy melodist, unweird, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love. Forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young. All breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue.
Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadst thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by the river or seashore, or mountain built with peaceful citadel, is emptied of this folk, this pious morn? And little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can e'er return.
O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou silent form dost tease us out of thought, as doth eternity, cold pastoral.
When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain, in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, Beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know.
In stanza 1, the speaker refers to the urn as unravished bride of quietness to represent the unchanging nature of the urn. Sylvan historian refers to anything pertaining to wood or forest because the urn tells a legend in images framed within the leaves. In stanza 2, the speaker praises that the unheard melodies are sweeter. Unlike the audible melodies of life, the urn's soft pipes play to the spirit, which is more meaningful. The speaker then addresses the bold lover who is playing on his pipes. He advises him to never kiss the young maiden near him. In fact, since the young bold lover is a drawing etched on the urn, he can't move in next to the maiden to kiss her. The speaker furthermore provides relief when he tells the young boy that the lady will never fade. In stanza 3, the speaker opens the stanza by addressing the trees as happy boughs because they will always retain their leaves and never bid the spring adieu. This goes back to illustrating the speaker's reference to eternal youth and everlasting beauty. The young man, a happy melodist, will always be playing songs with happy love. The speaker's tone then shifts from a light-hearted and gay tone to that of distress and harsh realization. Two parallel worlds of love is represented. Portrayed in the urn, the reader witnesses a love between man and woman that exhibits happiness, passion, and youth. However, the reader returns to reality to realize that in actuality, love between a man and woman leaves the heart high sorrowful and cloyed, because of the fact that time brings change and love can't remain perfect as represented on the urn. Sexual frustration is also exhibited through the speaker's description of the lovers on the urn. He seems to be in awe, admiration, and jealousy over such a love that the melodist and the fair maiden have. They will always be young, thus panting for each other, while in the real world, lust and attraction wears off as age descends. In stanza 4, the speaker shifts from idolizing the two lovers to the sacrifice of a lowing or mooing cow. He wonders from where the crowd emerges to witness the sacrifice. Since the people are inscripted on the urn, the speaker realizes that the little town, thy streets forevermore will be silent, because the people can never return back to their hometowns. Unlike reality, the pictures on the urn always retain the same look and are frozen in time. In stanza 5, the speaker shifts from having an admirable tone to that of frustration within this last stanza. He marvels at the shape and beauty of the urn, using words such as marble, overwrought, and bread. However, he soon realizes that the urn possesses a certain cold characteristic. While the speaker, along with his generation, will die and turn into ash, the urn will forever remain in marble and beauty. The urn will encounter generations after generation and recite the same phrase, beauty is truth, truth, beauty.
The speaker could be Keats himself. However, the best the poem supports is that it is an unidentified male speaking the poem. The best way to picture the speaker is with his nose pressed up against a museum display, declaring his love and undying admiration for a clay pot made in ancient Greece. When the poem was written in the early 19th century London, there were many artifacts on display in museums from ancient Greece, and this ode conveys the speaker's deep meditations and affections for one urn. He appears sexually frustrated in the first stanza when he identifies the urn as an unravished bride of quietness. Later in the third stanza, when the stimulations the urn leaves him with give him a burning forehead and parching tongue, and throughout shows insecurity to the urn's pseudo-divine qualities. He speaks to the urn itself, as the nature of an ode would suggest, but he also directly questions the people in the pictures on the urn in apostrophes, as if they were living beings. As he looks at the images of peaceful waterfront towns, a cow being led to a sacrificial altar, musicians playing instruments, and a group of women being playfully chased by a group of men, he contemplates how wholesome, pure, and fascinating life in ancient Greece was. He wishes to further understand why the people on the urn are doing what they are doing, and resents that the humility of life in ancient pastoral Greece will never prevail over the bills to pay, materialistic societies of contemporary times.
The idea of living forever is introduced through the description of the urn itself. Foster, child of silence and slow time, represents how the urn remains beautiful and unravished even through time. The poet constantly states forever to further emphasize the wonder and amazement in living eternally. For example, those forever panting in the real world would have burning foreheads and a parching tongue. However, in this eternal urn, they are forever young. The urn represents the innocent world unaffected by the hardships and suffering caused by change in time. The speaker seems to be in denial of the fact that age and time always prevails in life. The speaker is in awe and frustration as to how the urn keeps its form and beauty even through time. Cold pastoral refers to how the speaker dies along with its generation, and the urn will remain and recite beauty is truth, truth, beauty, to all other humans that encounter it. This significant remark leads the speaker to believe that the beauty of the urn should not be challenged and questioned, since beauty and truth is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know. The speaker finally comes into terms with what the urn actually stands for. It stays throughout time and symbolizes eternity. However, onlookers like the speaker should only marvel at its beauty and not try to see beyond eternity, because that will only lead to frustration and pain. This lesson applies to all because truth and beauty are intertwined, and this knowledge is all we need to know to make it through life. Questioning and speculating how the world works in terms of the afterlife and death will only consume the time we have remaining on earth.
Each stanza consists of 10 lines written in iambic pentameter. The first 4 lines of each stanza goes A, B, A, B, except for the last stanza. The last 6 lines go C, D, E, or some variation of C, D, E. The meter of the poem, which is in strict iambic pentameter, starts with an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed one. For example, thou still unravished bride of quietness.
Diction. Pictures frozen in time stands out in first stanza because the urn depicts static scenes of people performing actions that the speaker is commenting on. He goes on to say that because it is frozen, it will last forever, an immortal piece that will never fade away. Alternately, he asks what the people did to arrive at the scenes that were frozen in time, wondering what they did to get there. He says no one will ever know because it only shows a frozen world, so no one can see what happened before, making it seem the world in the urn isn't as good as he once thought. He is overwhelmed by the zone of the urn, which doesn't need to know anything outside of its frozen scene, oblivious to the world.
Personification. The urn is personified as an unravished or virgin bride. Also, the urn is a foster child to slow time because it succumbs to age. The speaker also describes the urn as a Sylvan historian, meant to describe one that tells a story about forest life. Oxymoron. Those melodies unheard. Peaceful citadel. Citadel is a fortress occupied by soldiers.
The urn itself is the most prominent symbol in the poem. It is used as a symbol for immortality by showing that the lovers will forever remain young and beautiful in a blissful moment.
Syntax. What mad pursuit, what struggle to escape, what pipes and trembles, what wild ecstasy. It's unusual for most of the first stanza pertains to the frozen time. It seemed that the author injected the last two lines to be an object of comparison to accompany his musings on frozen time. The last line of the fourth stanza seems to intend to ask, without receiving an answer, what prompted the villagers to leave and when they will return, as the urns themselves cannot show what happened.
Alliteration. Thou foster child of silence and slow time, Sylvan historian who canst thus express. Paradox. What mad pursuit, what struggle to escape. Although the images on the urn are meant to be stationary, the speaker uses this paradox of movement to bring life to the urn to tell the legend of the urn. The speaker uses metonymy to link his heart to his feelings of being high, sorrowful, and cloyed. Then he uses two examples of synecdoche to explain the downside of love. A burning forehead stands for a fever, and the parching tongue stands for thirst. All these devices are utilized to enhance the reader's imagination as to how the urn looks like and the legend that it tells.
Tone. The speaker has a thoughtful and inquisitive tone throughout the whole poem, often making inquiries to the proceedings inscribed on the urn. He also has a great deal of reverence towards the urn's immortality, with its events in stasis and the frozen time. He said that in the urn will have no fear of losing youth and being turned into dust with time. He then states that the decisive tone, the urn knows beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all ye know on earth and all ye used to know, indicating that even though the urn has but one purpose, it will continue to do so throughout the ages.
This poem contains many romantic characteristics. Above all, the reference to earthly images and nature signifies the belief that nature is closely tied with eternity. Besides the mentioning of leaf-fringed legend and forest branches overwrought with branches and trodden weeds, the story and the scenes the urn presents are ornamented with leaves, symbolizing nature's role in keeping the urn, more specifically the lovers, youthful. These lovers, carved onto the urn, appear as if they are frozen in an eternal bliss. The couple which remains in jubilance thus achieves immortality and shows how the speaker yearns for the unrealistic world he sees carved in the urn. Therefore, the urn itself is the epitome of beauty, and its beauty is what makes it immortal.
The romantic characteristics of imagination also come into play in this ode. The speaker makes the urn almost come to life by adding emotion, exclaiming, "Happy, happy bows!" The tangible emotions in the poem not only makes the poem more prominent and expressive, but it is yet another characteristic of Romanticism.
One Grecian urn! Two Grecian urns! And a fountain! Trickle, 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 trickle,